All right, everyone, it's Todd. Today I am at the Old Glory Distillery in Clarksville, Tennessee. Let's go check it out. So in case you didn't know, Tennessee has the Whiskey Trail, which is a lot like the Bourbon Trail. A list of distilleries, and you can see here, this little pamphlet has a map and a list of distilleries. And each time you go, you can get your passport stamped and you get a poker chip from that distillery. And when you complete them all, you can turn them in and you get some kind of gift. So we're actually going to knock off 3 distilleries on this trip, and this was the first one we planned to stop at. So as we walk in, we see their stills. And the bottle shop this way. So, U.S. Army decanter and glass set. Devin would like that. There's a Navy set, so very military oriented. Marine Corps. It's a really nice case too, though, Zen. And so that's how much they run.
At Old Glory, we started in 2016. That's when we opened our front doors. We're actually approaching our 8-year anniversary in October next month, so we're pretty excited about that. Now, as far as our grains and stuff, we do get our grains local. If you like, we can walk over there and talk about those.
Sure.
Yeah. On the first part of the distillery here, the tanks that are on this side here, that's where all of our white dog ends up when it comes off the still.
Okay. What does that come off the still at?
So we have 2 stills here. We have a pot still. It's kind of what we open the doors with. It's a 500-gallon steam-heated pot still. And then we have a column still as well. So the pot still for us produces about 2 barrels a day, whereas the column still produces about 16 barrels a day. So it was quite a big jump going from that pot still to that column still for us. Now, as far as our grains, we used 4 different types of grains here. We have corn and wheat. We get that from Longview Farms. They're located right here on the Tennessee-Kentucky border, about 15 minutes north of us. Now, as far as our rye and malted barley, we get that from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is about an hour and a half away from here, right? So now our mash bills themselves, now they're the same mash bill, 73% corn, 19% wheat on our Tennessee whiskey, 19% rye on our bourbon, and then both have 8% malted barley in there. Now, the pot still itself, like I said, it's the still that we opened the doors with here. It's a 500-gallon steam-heated pot still. We do have it fired up and running today. It's a beautiful piece of equipment to look at when you come through the door. But in 2022, we were able to upgrade to our column still back here, which is pretty cool. Like I'd mentioned, it makes about 16 barrels a day. And this thing's not running. You may be able to peek inside of it too. So when you do distillery tours, they always talk about the inside of the still, but you never really get to see it. I don't know if your camera can pick it up in there, but
I can see the plate.
Yeah, you can see the copper plate. Kind of looks like a shower drain in there. It's kind of neat. Yeah, I tell everybody on the tours when I give tour, the pot still is the beautiful piece of equipment, but the column still here is definitely the workhorse for us. That thing puts out some whiskey for sure.
Yeah. Now, where do you get your barrels from?
So we get all of our barrels from Kelvin Cooperage.
Okay.
We use a Char 4 and a Char 3 barrel. So we use that Char 4 on our bourbon and Char 3 on the Tennessee whiskey. So the sweetness that comes off that Char 3, we really like how it pairs with the Tennessee whiskey that we have. And then our bourbon, obviously, pairs really nicely with that Char 4 and that rye.
Okay.
Now, as far as our fermentation cycle, we do a sweet mash here. We don't do a sour mash.
So you don't do any sour mash.
Nope.
You're cleaning out and restarting every time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we have the sour mash or sweet mash. We do a 3 to 5 days fermentation cycle. Not too bad. Not currently, but we're usually running Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Currently, we're doing maybe 3 days a week as far as running.
Okay.
So it's pretty exciting. As you can tell when you walk in here, it just smells amazing.
Yeah.
But absolutely.
Okay, nice. Where do you keep your barrels?
Yeah, let's walk out there to the barrel house.
Okay.
Right. So the barrel house itself was constructed in 2022. We use probably a third of it as our bottling hall. So right here where this bay door is where our bottling hall is. We do contract bottling for folks. We do a little bit of contract distillation as well.
So does that mean like you're bottling your stuff with a different label? Is that what contract means?
No, so folks are sending us their product, and then we put that.
Oh,
into
and
the
you bottle it for them.
and ship
Okay.
it back to them. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Now, from where that orange cone is right behind me to the very end is all barrels. We have about 8,000 barrels here with us.
Okay.
Right. Pretty exciting. I know when we first built this and brought all the barrels over here, I think we had like 40 at that time. It was pretty funny seeing those 40 barrels in the big warehouse.
So what's your breakdown of the 8,000? Like what percentage is the bourbon? What percentage is the Tennessee whiskey?
I would say it's probably more heavy on the bourbon side. I would say maybe 60-40, but we do have quite a bit of both.
Okay.
For sure. Of course it's locked.
Oop.
Give me just 1 second here. Right. Come on in.
Nice.
All right, so everybody usually asks me on the tour what these barrels are behind me. We used to have, it was kind of an early GoFundMe for us, but these are sponsorship barrels. So essentially you would have paid $1,500. You would have got the first 12 bottles out of the barrel and then the barrel itself. We ended that program in 2022, but these are some of the barrels we have left. Now, of course, you can see up here, barrel number 2 is part of that program, and barrel number 3 is part of that program as well. So we actually do have barrel 1, 2, and 3 still in here with us. So barrel number 1 is right over here in the middle.
And that's still full?
Still
so
full.
It's 8 years, an 8-year product?
It's right now it's just a hair over 7.5.
Okay.
But I would assume that we're gonna drink this one dry, right? It's gonna be our first 10 year, first 12 year, first 15 year. So
yeah,
pretty exciting.
Nice.
Now our barrel entry proof is usually now is 120 proof, but you can see on barrel number 1 here it was 110.5.
Okay.
So it's part of that early exploration of finding out where you want that barrel entry proof to be. Now. Most of our barrels in here, I would say, are probably on that 2 to 3 year side. We have some of our old stock left from when we first, started distilling. So those are the 5 years that we're releasing as far as the single barrels and the blends and all that.
Okay.
So, like I had mentioned, with that bourbon, we do use a Char 4. With our Tennessee whiskey, we do use a Char 3.
Is this the Char 4 here?
Yes, this is the Char 4 here. They dubbed that the alligator char as well, because it looks like alligator skin.
Right.
But even though this is a used barrel, it's been sitting here for a long time. You can still pull the ash out of the barrel, right? A lot of folks, when you're giving a tour, they think that there's mold on the barrels, but that's actually leaking from the expansion and contraction phase. But yeah, if you want to take a peek down the barrel house here, you're more than welcome.
So do you use an inventory system to know which barrel number is where?
Absolutely. If those guys want to know where barrel 2000 is, they can come find it pretty quickly.
Okay. Now, is it harder? I would just think it'd be harder to go and get a barrel when they're stacked like this, like standing up, rather than rolling on the, like other barrel houses I've been in, they don't sit on their side, they roll in and out.
I mean, it is a little bit easier, but it's not as easy on the person, right? You still have to move. If you need that barrel from the middle of the rick, you still have to move all the other barrels out of the way. A lot of manpower, or you can just sit on the forklift and move them. Yeah. It may take you a few extra minutes to move those barrels around, but as far as the storage in here, it really makes a difference.
Because you have some on their side. So I'm curious, do you notice if one way leaks more than the other? If it's laying on the side or it's standing up?
So the only thing that we've seen so far is obviously the bung, right? Traditionally, barrels are made to be put on their side, not stood up. but we worked with Kelvin on that. So most of our bungs now, or all of our bungs now, are on the top. So that way when we stand them up.
Until you pointed that out, I didn't even notice that. I think that's the first time I've seen a bung on the barrel head.
Those guys are amazing. You know, they really work with you and make sure that, you know, that product is.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelvin's great. Now I always think this is pretty cool. Matt and Shannon, our founders, they have some wedding barrels in here that are pretty cool. Of course, everybody signed them at the wedding, but there's 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25.
Nice.
So that's pretty exciting.
Very cool. Now, you see you got some small barrels. Are those like experimental?
Yeah, so we do have some small barrels. Those are our rye that we haven't released yet.
Oh.
Now, we do have a lot of 53-gallon ryes as well. Of course, this is what we experimented with when we first opened the small barrels.
Okay.
Obviously, we found out that, yes, they add oak, but they don't let the grain mature.
Right, I agree. The small barrel stuff, you can usually taste it like a different type of youth in
Absolutely.
it. The barrel overtakes some of the whiskey.
So we've definitely moved away from that. Most of what you're going to see as far as the little barrels in here is going to be our barrel-aged gin.
Okay.
So yeah, we definitely moved away from that. We had 2 left, and I actually bought one of them from my bourbon group. So it was actually a damn good barrel for a small barrel. But absolutely, yeah. So this right here, this whole stack right here is all of our 5, 6 year, a little bit of 4 in here, 4 year in here too. But everything around it is newer within the last maybe 2 or 3 years.
So this is where you're getting your bottled and bond, because it was 5 years, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, our Tennessee bottled and bond is 5, and our bourbon's 5.5, almost 6.
I thought both bottled and bonds were good. I liked both of them.
Yeah, it's incredible because, you know, those are the first barrels we laid down. I've been to a lot of craft distilleries, and I'm just really impressed with what we're putting out. It's as a bourbon nerd, it's really impressive, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, I find a lot of craft distilleries are either, you know, they're hit or really miss. And you guys were pretty good. I mean, I've been to a couple of good ones, like Holiday was really good, and Hard Truth I enjoyed a lot, and New Riff, even though New Riff's a little older now. But yeah, you guys did. I liked your stuff. It was good.
Well, we would definitely appreciate that. Yeah, but so yeah, this is the barrel house. The capacity in here is about 10,000. About this time next year, we should be pretty full in here. We produce about 3,000 barrels a year off our column.
Now, do you have like any temperature control or?
We don't actually.
Okay.
This year is kind of odd. It's, you know, usually it's supposed to be melting hot in here, and it's really not. It's more comfortable than standing in the distillery.
Yeah.
But we don't do any air control. We do have some vents. We will air this whenever we need to.
Right.
But this year, again, it's been an odd year for us. There's been a lot of weeks where it's, you know, 70 degrees and everything else. So. Okay.
Now, do you guys do a single barrel program at all? Like picks, like somebody comes wants to do a single barrel pick, or?
We do a little. I don't think we've had Fred Minnick pick a barrel from here.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of Bruzel.
Yeah, I know who Bruzel is. Yeah.
Recently picked a barrel from here. So,
okay.
Taking a different approach to the single barrel program, I think. We're just trying to generate some buzz right now.
Okay.
That we're here, but we do single barrels.
Okay.
We have a lot of single barrels on the market, so it's pretty exciting to see that too.
All right.
We haven't fully opened our doors for the single barrel program, but if a store wants to come pick a barrel, we definitely make that happen.
Okay. Now, are you, as far as distribution, where are you as far as what states are you in? Are you 30 states, 20 states?
So we're still in Tennessee. Up until the end of last year, we were only distributed really right here in Montgomery County. But this year, we've kind of covered all of Middle Tennessee. Right now we're getting into the Memphis market, and then hopefully next year sometime we can get into the Knoxville, Chattanooga market.
Okay, so you're still just Tennessee only at this point, so you haven't reached out to Kentucky and Ohio and.
Yeah, not yet.
All right.
I'm not even sure where they want to go next.
Yeah, we live up in Northeast Ohio, so that's where we're coming from.
Yeah.
And I had never seen Old Glory on the shelf. I just, because we're doing the trail and we were coming this way, we said, hey, let's stop and check it out. So I'm glad I did.
And I think it surprises a lot of people. You know, craft distillery sitting on the side of the highway that nobody's ever heard of.
Right. Yeah.
You stop in and you try it and you're like, you know, wow. we've never sourced any bourbon or anything. So everything we've always released has been made by us and put out
I like
by
that.
us.
I like that. That's the right way
So,
to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our first release ever was an 8-month-old small batch, you know. So we started young, and to see where we are, it's just really, it makes you really, really excited about bourbon.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's very much, or thank you very much for the tour. That was really nice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's go get a flight.
Okay.
So I'm getting on the whiskey flight, and we're going to get an explanation for the different pours here.
All right, perfect. So first thing here, I think maybe the easiest way to break it down, we've got our bourbon and our Tennessee whiskey. For our bourbon, we are using a rye mash bill. For our Tennessee whiskey, it's going to be a wheat mash bill. They're both technically bourbon mash bills. They both have 73% corn. They both have 8% malted barley. The difference is that 19% is going to be rye for the bourbon, wheat for the Tennessee whiskey.
Okay.
Easiest way to remember for us, whiskey, wheat, right? Makes sense.
Okay.
You can remember that, then you can remember our bourbon is rye. Our bourbon also uses a 4-char barrel for aging. Our Tennessee whiskey uses a 3-char barrel. We're hoping to get a little bit more of a smokiness to go with the rye in our bourbon, and then a little bit more of the oak to shine in that 3-char to go with the sweetness of our Tennessee whiskey.
Okay.
Now, so that's kind of the brief differences between those two. We're going to start with a small batch here. It's going to be 90 proof, 10 barrels, 2 to 4 years old. In general, I tell people those 10 barrels are going to be a majority 2-year with some 3s and 4s snuck in there. So it's really closer to more like a 3-year when you average all the ages, right? And then we have our bottle and bond. If you don't know the rules for bottle and bond,
4 years.
It has to be at least 4 years. We are at about 5 on ours, on both. We did win a couple awards, actually for both of them. So both our Tennessee whiskey and our bourbon bottle and bond won gold at the American Craft Spirits Awards out in Colorado this past year. And then our Tennessee whiskey won double platinum with the Ascots, if y'all have ever heard of that. So very
Fred
cool.
Minnick.
Yep, exactly. So it's just one of those things where for a 5-year, I feel like we're getting a lot of good feedback. And so I'm excited for our 7, 8, 9. We're only an 8-year-old distillery, right? Yeah. So we've got some time to go.
Nice.
Very excited. So give those a try. 100 proof, obviously, and at least 4 years old, we're at 5. Okay. So, and then we'll try the single barrel. Once you're ready, you let me know.
Okay. All right. This is their small batch bourbon, their rye mash bill. 90 proof, aged 2 to 4 years. A little bit of vanilla, pepper, and almost like a light orange, like a little bit of citrus. All right. Yeah, there's a little bit of sweetness, like a toffee, a little bit of vanilla. There's some baking spice. On the finish, though, you can get a little bit of that youthiness. It's nice. It needs to be in the barrel longer, but it's got a really nice base. After a few minutes, the vanilla is really starting to come through on the nose. Okay, this is the Tennessee whiskey, the wheated mash bill. It is the small batch. It is also aged 2 to 4 years, 90 proof. It's definitely sweeter on the nose. It's kind of like almost a honey. I get that vanilla again. Try it on the palate. Not real complex on the palate. But I find that with a lot of wheated, they're not real complex to me, unless they're like a older age statement or higher proof maybe. But this is very similar to a Maker's Mark to me. A little bit of vanilla and almost a bread note. It's definitely easy to drink, not offensive at all. It doesn't have the funk that I get on some wheated, like the Rebels. So that's good. But yeah, not real complex. Okay, this is the bourbon bottled in bond. It's their rye mash bill, 100 proof. He said they were aged, their bottled in bond is 5 years old. That's much better on the nose already. That is the brown sugar, a little bit of cinnamon, and just much deeper and richer than the small batch was. So it's he said the small batch is like around 3 years. This is around 5, so a couple of years older and 10 proof points higher. But there's a marked difference in the nose. It's not even close. And also, you can tell the difference just in the darkness. I mean, that extra 2 years of aging really makes a difference. Okay, that's pretty good. So the youthiness from the small batch isn't there. It's got that baking spice, so that same baking spice. Baking spice, a little bit of cinnamon, kind of like a coriander. It's sweet, like brown sugar on the front, and then there's baking spices really kick in as you hit that mid and back palate. Pretty good. Okay, this is the Tennessee whiskey bottled in bond. It is the wheat mash bill. It is 5 years old and 100 proof. Oh, again, that's much better on the nose. It's got a tobacco note on the nose that it didn't have on the small batch. And it's still got that kind of standard vanilla that comes a lot with wheaters. Oh, that's got a nice tobacco note on the front. Matches the nose. A little bit of like a dark fruit. I do get a little bit of that wheated funk on the finish. The front of the palate's really nice. And the nose is really good on that. So I'm gonna have to decide. So with the flight, they're allowing me to choose one single barrel to do, either the Tennessee whiskey or the bourbon. So I have to decide which one, the bourbon or the Tennessee whiskey, I want to try a single barrel off. The bourbon, it's not bad. With a few more years on that, that's going to be really good. I really like that kind of cinnamon baking spice that goes along with the brown sugar in the front of the palate. It's really nice. Man, that Tennessee whiskey has a great tobacco note, though. And just a little bit of fruitiness. It's just a tiny bit of funk on the end from the wheat. All right, I'll come back when I decide and let you guys know what I pick. This is the single barrel bourbon I'm choosing from. It is 124.84. Do you know how old it is?
It's going to be between 5 and 6 years old.
Between 5 and 6?
Our single barrels are between 5 and 6.
And the Tennessee whiskey, the wheated, is what is that?
122, I believe.
Okay, so 122.12 it looks like. It is the same age, about 5 to 6?
5 to 6.
Okay. So I preferred the bourbon overall, so I'm going to take a pour of the single barrel bourbon. All right, so I'm going to try this single barrel bourbon. It was 124.84. and 5 to 6 years old. So there's some similarities to the bottled and bond on the nose. I do get a little bit of that cinnamon and bacon spice, but it's got a lot more sweetness to it. It's got a lot more like caramel brown sugar on the nose than the bottled and bond had. Okay, that's got the bacon spice, but that also has a little bit of a tobacco note. So it's got baking spices and tobacco and a much better finish. So the bottle and bond wasn't bad on the finish, but it was just kind of there and gone. This one is really hanging around. It's got a nice finish with that proof. That's a nice single barrel. That's a nice pour. Now they were nice enough to go ahead and give me a re-glen pour of their single barrel Tennessee whiskey. So I'm gonna give that one a try as well. And this one was 122.12, it looks like. And again, 5 to 6 years old. So that's a little more ethanol forward on the nose than the bourbon was. There's a lot of vanilla in there. Some caramel. So the vanilla's there, but I get the ethanol on the palate more than I got it from the bourbon. So yeah, there's a lot more ethanol covering up flavors there. It's harder to come through. At the higher proofs, the bourbon shines through a lot more than their Tennessee whiskey, in my opinion. So the single barrels, the bourbon definitely would be the way to go. The bottled and bond, I actually liked both of them. It was a pretty tough decision. I went with the bourbon because with the bottled and bonds, I did get some of that weeded funk from the Tennessee whiskey, and I'm not a huge weeder fan. So, but out of the single barrels, the bourbon is definitely the better of the two.
All right. So we got our shelf here kind of organized. We've got all our bourbons on this third shelf, all of our Tennessee whiskeys on the second shelf. And then basically how it works is our small batch. Both of them are $44.99. So that's going to be that 90 proof, 2 to 4 years old. Then we move down to our bottle and bond, 100 proof. At least 4 years old, we're at 5 on both. That's going to be $64.99. And then we're down here in our single barrels, both between 5 and 6 years old. And we're going to be at $84.99 for that. So those are barrel strength, obviously.
Okay. Thank you very much
Of
for
course.
your time.
No problem. Thank you.
So on the other side of the distillery, they also have a restaurant and bar.
All right, I was going to take you outside.
Okay.
Yeah. So the restaurant came this year in February. Also with the restaurant came our silo park. Live music every Friday and Saturday. We have a bar silo out here and all kinds of fun stuff. All right. So silo park. So we can hold events out here. Pretty cool space. Of course, we do have fire pits all over. The silo itself is a bar.
So you have live bands come out and play?
It's not so much bands as it is just, single performers with a guitar.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's still on a Friday night. Definitely livens this place up.
I love distilleries that do stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like where they have the fire pits and the music, and they'll have food, and sometimes like some places have games like cornhole, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
It's something new that distilleries are doing, because everybody's starting to make it a place where you can come spend the day, right? Versus just coming to the bottle shop or taking a tour.
yeah. Have you ever been up to Whiskey Thieves up in Kentucky, where you go and you do thief straight from the barrel.
Is that?
And they have like live music and food trucks and games and all that.
I have.
Yeah, so it's up there near, it's in between Louisville and Lawrenceburg. It used to be called Three Boys Farm.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jeff the Creed does something similar. They have like the fire pits and they have games and they have bar and music and food and stuff. So I love those kind of distilleries because sometimes it's not just about out getting bottles or doing tours. Sometimes I want to go just have fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hang out.
We had a dueling piano concert up here the other day, and it was just completely packed over here.
Oh, I bet.
And it was so cool to see.
That's awesome.
Out here where the lights are hanging, there's a bocce ball court as well. And of course, you can see up there's some cornhole boards. So it's pretty fun.
Oh, yeah, I see them up there.
Now, a fun story about the logos that you see. Our founder Matt and his grandfather actually painted those logos on the back of the stage back there and on top of the silo. So it's really cool to see that, you know, he's here putting the work in. He's just not just hiring it out, right?
Right.
It's a family. It's a family-oriented business, and it's amazing.
Well, I really like what you guys are doing here. I do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hats off to those guys for sure.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. That was Old Glory Distillery. I knew nothing about the distillery before we got there. It was on the Tennessee Whiskey Trail, so the only reason I went. But they had strong offerings for both the bottled and bonds. I was really surprised. I did like their rye mash bill bourbon better, and their rye mash bill single barrel was much better than their wheated. But I did like the bottled and bond enough that I actually bought one. And I'm looking forward to actually comparing this to some other bottled and bonds, in particular the Hard Truth 4-grain bottled and bond, which is one that I really like from a craft distillery. So we'll see how that goes. But I will say, if you're in the area of Clarksville, go ahead and stop by there and check it out. I mean, their offerings were really good, a lot better than I thought, something I'd never heard of. And the distillery was really nice. They have a really nice restaurant there. And on Friday nights, they say they played live music, and I imagine it's got to be a blast to sit there, listen to music, have some pretty good whiskey, get some food, and they had like cornhole and some other stuff. So it looked like a place with a good atmosphere. So if you're in that Clarksville, Tennessee area, definitely I'd say give it a try. Go there, check it out, have a flight, and see what you think. All right, until next time, remember, the best bourbon or whiskey is the one you like the most.